Nation. As the room fill up, be sure to smash upon the like button. The name is Law Nation once again. Sharing is caring, baby. Shout out to the notification squad. Swat up, Cowboys, Stephen Jones on season and opportunity, plus draft visits Q&A. My thoughts on the guys they're bringing in for a cup of coffee. And more information around the world, in the globe. Come on.
Spartans, prepare for glory.
Yo. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. What's up? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I appreciate each and every last one of you all for tuning in. We're going to talk about this. Shout out to Stephen Jones and, of course, the Cowboys.com. They had a few excerpt on Stephen Jones' thoughts of the offseason as well as some other things. But since I'm pressed for time, we're going to dive right into the audio, and then I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on some of the 30 draft day visits that's the Cowboys bringing in. By record, historical data, one of those 30 visits will be a Dallas Cowboy. One of those 30 visits will be a Dallas Cowboys. So, players, so keep that in mind. And that's historical data. That's been a fact for the last 15 to 20 years. So, the Cowboys, one of those guys will be rocking the silver and blue. But before we go any further, let's go ahead and knock this audio out right quick.
The guys turned out that way. And we just felt value-wise, whether it's compensation in terms of a pick, whether it's, what you ultimately pay a guy, we just felt like the value was there this time in these two situations making a trade. But it wasn't a foregone conclusion. We were just going to be out here looking for trades. We entertained trades quite a bit. We entertained them at the trade deadline last year and didn't make some, and entertained other players in trades, and, they don't come to fruition. Everything's got to work, including the business, and as well as if you're ultimately going to trade for a guy, what that compensation is.
Just having the compensatory picks available to trade now, how much does that factor into being able to do things like that?
Well, that's what it is. I mean, you're ultimately, when you're signing free agents, especially unrestricted free agents, the term, you're ultimately taking away from compensatory picks. So when you're signing guys, especially if you're losing guys, which we did, with Dalton and Connor McGovern and Noah and Gifford, those are all guys that if we don't end up signing guys that work against those picks, then you get those compensatory picks.
All right, so basically this Stephen Jones, appreciate everybody for filling in. Stephen Jones is going over the offseason and, of course, the free agent moves and the transactions as it relates to the trade situations. And he said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, that this is what they always been doing. This is what they always been doing. It's just that this year that some of the deals went through. Now, we as Cowboy fans, we say, hey, the Jones family need to establish sense of urgency, right? They need to push it a little bit harder. Now, granted, these two guys falling right into the laps of the Cowboys. I'm still like this, and I know a lot of people, they get angry, they get upset because I'm not saying A++, what have you, but I'm looking at it like I'm not satisfied. I still want those boys to leave no stone unturned, continue to will and deal. I'm seeing like deals like Calais Campbell getting signed for the Atlanta. Hey, we still need we still got a voided area inside, right? So some of those things, not saying that we want everybody, but I at least want to hear, hey, we brought him in for a cup of coffee. He decided to go elsewhere. I'm looking for these guys to continue. That's just what it is. I hate to say it that way. So now, satisfaction as far as bringing in Gilly, bringing in Brandon Cooks, is that better than what we had last year and the previous years? Yes, indeed, baby, it's better. But I want more. Put it in the chat. I'm greedy. If you're greedy with law, let me know. I'm greedy. You know, this is what I'm greedy.
I know you said that things worked
You
out
greedy?
differently this year, that you have done this all, but do you feel that you were tried to be more aggressive or do things just to make changes this year that you didn't in the past?
I think it was ways that we, were able to, fill needs, which we always try to do. And I know some people think sometimes we're more aggressive than others, but we've made it pretty clear we were after a juicy type receiver, if you will, and obviously, looking at that corner position as well in terms of things that we felt like we needed to, do for our football team. And then, of course, signing back some guys that we needed to do. If we didn't get our own, it would have made it more of a need if we lost guys, whether it's a Wilson or a Van Der Esch or somebody like that, then, it becomes more of a need if you don't keep your own guy.
Right.
You mentioned
Right. So he said looking for that juicy type of receiver, and he talked about, hey, of course, compensatory picks. We may lose out on some because we signed this and we moved that. But I'm greedy, y'all. And the difference. I'm gonna say this again. Shout out to y'all. Corey, appreciate you, and Coach. Shout out to USC in the chat. Here's the truth too. Believe it or not. When it is a mom and pops, you land a big deal, you go sip on your champagne and your bottle of rosé, whatever it may be. But when it's a Fortune 500 company, right? I'll never forget, I used to work for Toshiba, right? And of course, it was Pitney Bowes in the state of Mississippi, and they merged with Toshiba on some deals or what have you, on some contract stuff. And imagine me wearing a 3-piece suit in the middle of June and July, going door to door, business to business, floor to floor, every floor. You know what I'm saying? And we had a quota. In Mississippi, we had a quota of $45,000 a month. So, yeah, you probably be happy you hit your quota one month, but the next month, that joker, it starts all the way over again. And yes, that was a nice little old salary, but you could never sit still. And Toshiba, Pitney Bowes, if you ever look up how much money they make, billions of dollars. They didn't never let us off the hook. I mean, God, dog. Yeah, y'all let me know if I met those quotas, you know what I'm saying? I want these boys to meet some quotas over here. Sure. Yes, and boy, I thank God I got out of that job, though. In some parts of Mississippi, boy, 82 counties in Mississippi, some parts you couldn't just walk up out of there, peacefully. Some people say, get out of here, But, and I look just like that dude off of Pursuit of Happiness, Time Machine, walking around with that big old thing, trying to show people your printerfax copier machine. What is your carbon footprint? But some of the things that I learned there, I applied now. But what I'm saying is these boys need to hit quotas. And just what you did last week, we're not satisfied for this week. It's a week to week over here, baby. Yeah, ain't that right, Chris 214? You think the Cowboys are all in on Jay Ferguson? Jay Ferguson, he don't get a chance to pick out his bed yet. Right? He's still wet behind the ear. He only, in his career, he only had 170-something yards. So Jake Ferguson need to figure it out, even though we like what he did in a spoonful of time. But we're going to have to see Jake Ferguson with something more on their resume. Right. So unfortunately, we're going to have to still apply pressure for Jake Ferguson, whether or not we feel like he's all in or not. Good old Mississippi Alpha Mason, appreciate you. Let's go.
the trade deadline versus now. to have the Texans take on $6 million of Cook's salary, how helpful is that?
I mean, it all boils down to what the final business is. I mean, I don't want to get into the details
True.
of any one thing about it.
True,
But,
Clark.
certainly, when we're weighing what we want to do, whether it's draft pick compensation or what ultimately the business is going to look like for us, which is, what's our cap hits over the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, those all come into play.
What
Yes,
needs are
it does.
left?
All right, yeah. Ooh, I love y'all so much. Jake need more touches to build up his resume. Yeah, Brian, you're right. When you look, here's the thing, especially if you had a business degree. I'm just using this as an example. Your business degree, business administration, unless you got an intern, it don't mean a hill of beans, because what will happen until maybe 5 to maybe 10 years after you done graduate, right, that you can start flexing, hey, I got this degree. Because what will happen here, for example, let's say you went to college 4 years when it took you 5 years to get out of it, right? 4 to 5 years to get out of college, right? And someone skipped college and went straight into business, went straight into Best Buy or Walmart. They got 4 to 5 years of experiences. So when an opening come available, they already know the system. They already know how to maneuver around, and they may have became either the supervisor or the manager or whatever. Sometimes crazy things can happen. You can become a general manager without a degree because you just somehow fell in the right places, right? So what I'm saying here is, yes, you may have the pedigree. You may have all of the skill sets and knowledge, but you still got to build your resume. And Jake Ferguson, we can look at him and say, hey, he got the pedigree. He got the skill set and knowledge, but he still got to build up his resume. He got to give us some community service at least on something before we elevate him. And that is life, believe it or not. Now, some people get lucky. They know the friend or the family, and as soon as they graduate, they get into those spots and those roles. But the reality of it takes time. Something that we really don't have a lot of as Cowboy fans. We don't have time for Ferguson to develop, and that is where West Coast is at. He's banging on the table for Dalton Schultz, but we're sitting here saying like, hey, we've seen all what we needed to see out of Schultz, right? Oh, Schultz. But here's the thing. Jake Ferguson, within the confines of this system, he should be better than what he was last year, not compared to what Schultz did in his last few years. But he's still building his resume, right? We need to see whether or not he can be consistent week in and week out. And the same should be said for Peyton Hendershot. What tight end question? This is from my guy Clark. Question. What tight end last season had the most touches? I think it was still Schultz. And then it was Ferguson, and then it was Hendershot, right, in that order, right? But here's how it goes from here. I'm not looking for Ferguson nor Hendershot to be world of the world class. I'm not looking for them guys to win games. In my opinion, it goes all the way back to what the Playmaker said, even in the first playoff game that we lost to the Niners. You need to focus and highlight on your playmakers, right? And your playmakers should be CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard if healthy, Cooks. Those should be the guys that on the offensive side that you're building around. Everybody else should be this right here, ancillary. Write that down. They should be a situation whereas they cannot be drive killers but drive extenders. Think about this. When you think of the 90s Cowboys, and I'm only saying this for context, right? Jaden Novacek was good for a lot of things, but the playmaker, 88, was the playmaker. Emmett was the consistent one, right? You know that Emmett was going to get those touchdowns in the playoff game. And Troy controlled the game. under the leadership of the coaching philosophy. See, Jake Novacek was never asked to win the game, right? But he was an important piece. Although it would be crass for me to say he was only an ancillary piece, but technically that was his role. By it being only Troy and Jay Novacek, they would never won the Super Bowl or a Super Bowl or multiple games in the playoffs, right? So that's how we got to look at it. So what happened here is when you have a system in place that focuses in on the guys that's less talented, you will get there, but you won't win it. And those were some of the inefficiencies due to lack of experiences from Kellen Moore.
You've done a good job of taking things so you can be pure in the draft, but you need to address guard, you need to address nose tackle.
We got a guard.
Okay.
So,
You
I
view
mean,
him
feel
as
real
guard,
good about
that's where
him.
you're going to work into it.
Yeah, I think he can do both, which I
Shout out to
always
you,
think
Randy.
anytime a player, has flexibility, can play several positions. That's a huge plus. I mean,
It is.
Makes the player even more valuable. But, we're always looking to improve our football team. And, obviously, there's an obvious one. We lost Dalton. And, probably always going to look to beef that up. Mike really enjoys using, or not enjoys, but it's a big part of what he's about is to use tight ends. And so, whether it's the draft or whether it's free agency or a trade, we're always looking to improve our team.
How do you view Terrence Steele? Is he part of that tackle group?
I think
Can he
it's
move inside? Or?
I think it's the best five guys, at the end of the day. I mean, Mike's always preached that, and, it's early. We'll see kind of once, we got a new offensive line coach.
He's smiling,
we'll see, he gets them out there, gets his hands on them, sees what they can do, and we'll figure out, what are the best five guys and, what makes us the best football team for 17 games plus hopefully the playoffs.
All right, so with that being said, he said his best five, so he's crafting up the whole argument to either do something with Terrence Steele, and it's good to leave people in the dark, especially around this time in the draft. You never want to show your hand, right? So that is what it is. Shout out to you, Jonathan. Shout out to you, says, awesome video. Appreciate you. Brent Day says she's tired of waiting, right? And I think that she speaks for a lot of people. I'm tired of waiting. I want them to make moves now, make moves now. So now, granted, I'm greedy. But they did make some moves, but it's still not enough in my opinion, right? You still should be entertaining or trying to let people know we're still working on this and that, right? So that's just how I look at it too. So we are all hasting, you know what I'm saying? The Cowboys to go out there and make something happen. Pushing them, saying, hey, we are not satisfied. We want more. We want better quarterback play. We want better run schemes and design. We want better coaching overall. We want better impact for the defense on the back end. We don't want to hear no lips of, hey, we was close to making this deal done. Unfortunately, time ran out. Unfortunately, this guy cost a little too much, and then when the reports come out, it was like $1 or $2 million, right? No, we're not waiting around for that. Look, we want things tangible now. Let's go.
Where do things stand with Hankins at the moment, and is Hankins, Watkins kind of a one or the other? Are they tied in some ways?
No, not necessarily. I mean, we obviously, with those two guys not signed yet, I mean, that's an area where we need to do it. If we can do it with them, that's good. I mean, they're our guys. We're involved with working on both of them, and we'd love to have them back.
Not one or the other, both.
We'd take them both back, absolutely.
We're kind of in
We had them both on the team last year.
we're kind of in an environment with running backs where guys are getting paid $2 million and $4 million. What's your Tony Pollard master plan contractually?
I think that, for me to speak to his business is unfair to him. But, obviously we've got Tony for next year for sure. Would we like to have him tied up for 3 or 4 years? Of course we would.
Well, that's That's an error upon the Cowboys, right? When you allow something to go to the end of life of contract, that's just an error on the Cowboys, unfortunately. And when you present the overall franchise tag, which we all said, hey, franchise tag is cool, but stop using them. We've been using franchise tag, I think, 6 years in a row, 7 years in a row, some crazy odd number like that. But I can tell y'all right now, franchise tags, when you use them, you overuse the money with that because it's locked up. That's $10 million that you can't move around and slide around. On top of that, the running back market is anywhere between $5 to $8 million, right? And for a starting running back. And the market seems to be settling right at that spot. It's not going crazy above. I kind of like my guy Skywalker theory on that. We was on the round table and we was talking about running backs. And he was saying, man, bell cow running backs basically is dead to him, right? The theory of using one running back to collect multiple yards is a dying spot. So it's better to have 2 or 3 guys that can do one person's job to keep those legs fresh and work out a situation. It may be hard to let go. But unfortunately, since that spot is such an easy spot to transition in from a collegiate aspect to the pros, far as what teams are asking said running back to do, then it could be after their first contract is start to parlay some stuff. And thinking of parlay, check out my information that's in the description box so you can parlay some things with the underdog. I had a guy this year to win $3,000 using underdog. So if you use it, you use promo code LAW, and that will at least match up to $100. I just had to throw that in. But you got to be 18 years or older, by the way. But neither here nor there. My thoughts would be with this. The Dallas Cowboys probably waited too long, and now they're going to have to pay the piper, right? And hopefully, Tony Pollard will exhibit and exude even more than what he did last year. Let's go.
Why didn't y'all offer Zeke?
Oh, something fall out.
Why didn't y'all offer Zeke a pay cut?
I think, when you got players, and we've had them over the years, whether it's a Emmitt Smith, whether it's a DeMarcus Ware, these type of players,
right?
You've got such respect for everything that they've done for your organization, and sometimes, the best thing is to let them get a feel for what the market is. The last thing you want to do is do anything that would be insulting to a player, to a great player like Zeke, who's one of the best players to ever put on a Cowboys uniform, and he gave us everything he had. And a great competitor, and wish him nothing but the best if it turns out he doesn't return. But we never rule anything out around here. But, there's sensitivities when you get into making offers in this game.
That's one of them It's one of those laughs. Chris 214 says Isaiah Pacheco, 7th round pick, crazy because dude is nice. But Pacheco, here's the thing. As the running back, week 1, he wasn't asked to do everything. Week 2, nor week 3. He was slowly integrated in, and they still had McKinnon. They still had the other guy is at the tip of my tongue. What's this guy's name? I forgot his name. Just at the tip of my tongue. But they had him. So they had multiple running backs over there. And Rojo, he was only for, 17 snaps, so that wasn't even enough. But what I'm saying here is just be careful on how you utilize and use said running backs. And, of course, you had EB in their system. Eric Bieniemy was a running back, right? And was Edwards. Yeah, Edwards. Shout out to you, Jerome. So it wasn't just Isaiah by himself. So you got to contextualize all of that. So when you start to think of it, if the Cowboys want to pick up that same philosophy or what have you, then they can do that, right? They can figure it out and say, okay, we're going to roll up Tony Pollard. They brought in Spears for a workout. And also, they may go into the draft and draft someone. They also talked about the guy from TCU, Kendre Miller. So it's moving around, y'all, And let's not sleep on Malik Davis and Rico Dotto. You know what I'm saying? Oh, and another thing, my biggest thoughts on this, as far as what he mentioned about Ezekiel Elliott. Hear me out. I think that Ezekiel Elliott, they may entertain that after the draft. Not before the draft, but after the draft. And if none of the guys, like the board of the guys, fall into their hands or lap, then they'll pick up the phone and say, hey, Zeke, what's good? We don't have 21 for you, but we have another number for you. Would you like to come back? We need somebody. We need somebody to help. So that's always a situation that's up their sleeve that they can keep.
A player status like him, and you mentioned DeMarcus too. I mean, there's a point where what their actual value is, the way you project the team, is below certainly where they see themselves, and you don't necessarily want to part on those.
And
terms.
can almost always the case when you're talking about great players. I mean, it's just always the case, and that's what makes them great, is they think a lot, not in a selfish way, but they have, they perceive themselves as a great player, and they are. And it just becomes, how you make the business work. It always boils down to that, unfortunately. And there was no joy when Emmett went to Arizona. There was no joy when DeMarcus went to Denver. But you look up, and there's a lot of goodwill still between DeMarcus and the Cowboys. You see him around the building all the time. Emmett Smith, you see around the building all the time. I think we've, for the most part, worked through these tough situations in a good way, and hopefully we're doing it in spades with Zeke, because there's nothing but love and respect for Zeke Elliott.
Well, here's my thing, man. Here's my thing. Here's my thing with D-Ware. It's crazy, y'all. It's flat out crazy. Because in 2014, all we needed, man, was somebody off of that LOS to get to the quarterback or get close to the quarterback in that Green Bay Packers game. Aaron Rodgers, the man had one leg. And we had nobody to pass rush to get close to, and the guy that was just doing all of that was D-Ware, right? But he was gone. He was gone to the doggone Denver team. And it's sad, like sometimes we get rid of a guy just when we need the guy, right? But it wasn't like, yay, D-Ware is gone, right? It was like, hey, man, what's going on with that? They robbed us in 2014. Yeah, Al. Kareem Turner. Yeah, they robbed us. Thief. Where my button at? Thief. Come back. Thief.
Stop, thief! Come back, thief!
They robbed us blind, dog. They robbed us with our eyes open. And the craziest thing of it all, a third of us, over that number, we were right. We were right the whole time. Dez caught it. It took the NFL 3.5 years to say, yeah, you know what? That dude, Law Nation, he was right. 3 to 4 years later, my right was right. Yeah, he was right. It was a catch. We were right the first time. But let's listen.
We talked several times about possible Dak contract extension that's on the agenda. Mm-hmm. Where are you guys on that process?
Yeah, we won't comment on that. Those are things, hopefully, that won't become front and center. You wake up one day and they're done. But really don't want to comment on that.
But that's still the focus.
I'm not going to comment on it.
You always talk about wanting a pure...
Oh, I forgot to mention this. There's two thoughts with this Dak Prescott situation. And you can see Stephen Jones is on the left side. Jerry is on the right side, and they always fighting over this, to be 1,000 with you. But Stephen Jones got more of the control of the team, so there will always be that frictions with contracts now, right? We know, Jerry, go get God. Jerry, I need this person. Jerry, I'm a wildcatter. We do know that. So I wouldn't be surprised if Stephen Jones is watching right now with a dummy account, and troll account and trolling me every day, right? But that just, it'd be like, Law, you must be out your mind. That dude's a billionaire. He ain't worried about a little old Law Nation. But it is what it is, though. And it's good. It's good that you got the contrast, but it's terrible at the same time because at the end of the day, in a household, you want one leader. You want somebody that can put the foot down and things get done, whereas there will be always frictions. What they say, too many chefs in the kitchen, right? Too many chiefs, not enough Indians, something like that. George said, you found me out. Well, hey, Jerry, son, John Stephen Jones. Let's go.
Go into the draft as pure as possible. Have you positioned yourself as good as you have at any time over the last maybe 10 to 12 years going into this draft of being able to do that?
Well, we'd like to think, you always hope so. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've thought so in the past, too, that we could go pretty pure on what we needed to do. But I do feel really good that whatever player happens to fall to us there at 26, which is a tough spot. There's usually never been 26 first-rounders on our board. I doubt that'll be the case this year. And the further you get back from the 18 to 20 players you usually have, there's lesser chance that one of those first-rounders you have are going to be there. So, we just really, I think we've put ourselves in a good position that we can, even if it's, not necessarily a guy with a first-round pick. If there is, then great, let's take him, regardless of position. If it's not, then hopefully you still take the best player on your board and you feel good about it.
Right. That is always a tricky situation and scenario. I'm quite sure you got about Chris Hall in the room, Will McClay in the room, and their staff. You got Stephen Jones, Jerry Jones. How many numbers did I just mention? About 5 or 6 guys. Then you got the coaches, right? The positioning coaches. But the people that's going to be in the room is, of course, Mike McCarthy, Dan Quinn. So that's a lot of people in the room. And everybody got their unique top 15, top 25, top 30 players, right? And it becomes overall philosophy, where it's going to be a few bends, but don't break. It will be a few head scratchers. It will be a few banging on the table saying, I need scheme. It will be a few concessions made on, what directions you would like to take the team to. And then you got the veto power. The veto power is Jerry Jones, and I believe Stephen Jones done got that thing to say, hey, I veto. And let me know, is Chris Hall? Chris Hall, he's one of the scouting evaluators, right, Oscar? Is Chris Hall still in there? Did he lose his spot? Let me know. I could be wrong. I'm not following. No, not Chris Paul, Chris Hall. Cowboys staff, Chris Hall, not Chris Paul. Oscar, you may be off a little bit. You might not know all of the staff, so my bad. Nevertheless, let me know, for those who follow the Cowboys, if Chris Hall is still a part of the talent evaluation. But neither here nor there. And he could be one of the secret sauces in this draft to put things together in the right direction. But neither here nor there. Cowboy Nation, there will be a lot of concessions made, but there will be one person with the veto power. Okay, yes, he is. Okay, good. Woo! Y'all have me thinking that, hey, he's still in there. Okay, good. A lot of people don't talk about him, but he do a lot of work. And if you ever around a star, you'll see him. You know what I'm saying? You'll see him around there. And he would chit-chat with you about a player and what they thought about a player off record. You know, me and Boss Cowboy Sports, we cornered him one time, and he chit-chatted with us for a good little minute. And he one of those people that don't want us either. He be like, all right, man, all right, good. But neither here nor there. The Dallas Cowboys have veto power, and we heard, like, sometimes it take 2 or 3 years before all of that goes away, you know, and then they say, yeah, I was banging on the table for Taco. Who? You know, who was banging on the table? You know, so that's just how it goes, too. So we'll find out how everything will work its way out. Let's listen to more what they had to say.
Talked a lot last year about Tony and Zeke being a 1-2 punch, different running styles helps keep the defense off on their toes. With Mike wanting to run the ball so much this coming year, what do you need beyond Tony to accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, if you found, you know, in a perfect world, you'd find a big physical back that could complement Tony. I mean, obviously Zeke was extremely successful in short yardage and goal line, and, you know, he's one of the best. I think he's right there at the top in terms of touchdowns scored. There inside the 5, he was pretty efficient.
All right, so hey, this is Chris Hall for those who don't know. You know, he's college scouting coordinator. So he got a team of people. They had even an opening about 6 or 7 months ago for a recruiter to go to certain locations, but he's one of the guys that put in a lot of work. That's behind the scenes type of stuff. And if you ever see his face around in Dallas or what have you, man, you know, give the man a cup of coffee, you know, give him a sandwich or something, you know. But he's a real good guy, and you know, that's his resume. And of course, you can go to Cowboys. Let me just do this. Let me help y'all out because, boom, and we're gonna go right here. Boom. Boom, here we go. And he'll be in the war room. He'll be doing all type of stuff. Yes, Oscar, yes. So he put in some work. But I know most of the credit will go to Will McClay and all of that. But he's part of the necessary weapons that they bring to the team. And his scouting his scouting acumen is very, 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 very good. All right, here we go right here. Blue Star, I'm done with you, man. Blue Star says Dallas Jesus, man. The Dallas Messiah, you know, he's the behind the scene. You know, he's the one that's really walking on water. He's the one that really found the Ron Bland. Hey man, I'm so through with you, man. You crazy as all get out, man. Now that you mention it, he do have that long hair or what have you. He do look like that the character that they portray as Jesus. But yeah, man, oh my gosh, man. All right, so oh my gosh, man, I'm too done. I got a meeting at 1:00. So I want to talk about Tank Dell before I depart. Tank Dell, he's 5'8", probably 160 to 166 pounds. They met with him, and his burst and his acceleration is phenomenal. I think that he will bring a lot to the table in the wide receiver room. It will also bring a lot for special teams. I get it. A lot of us looking at this thing saying, hey, what are we now? The under 6 foot boys, you know? What happened to all of the height? What happened to all of the conversational piece about the Dallas Cowboys need these big 6'3", 6'4" type of wide receivers? Well, in a West Coast scheme, it's all about I'm going to be at this spot. I'm going to get separation. I need to be at this location because our average yards of separation last year was terrible with our wide receivers, and a third of that could come from the fact that hook routes, right? I can come down and squeeze on a hook route. So my thing is Dallas Cowboys, they entertaining array of all type of wide receivers, regardless of their height, size, or what have you, as well as defensive players. I love it because it's thinking outside of the box. Shout out to those 5'8", 165 pounds, right? Here's the thing. Here's the truth about smaller wide receivers. Nobody will want them until they see them and they say, you know what, that Tyreek Hill, and I'm not saying Tank Dell is Tyreek Hill, by the way, but nobody wants them until they see him on the field and say, you know what, shoot, that dude's nice. Man, what round did he go in? Shoot, man, we should have looked at Tyreek Hill. Now, granted, if Tyreek Hill would have went to the Cowboys, he would have been suspended for 7 to 8 games or for a whole season, right? That's just how that goes. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, not just him, Emmanuel Forbes, he was brought in for a cup of coffee, right? Maybe Chris Hall. Maybe Chris Hall saw Emmanuel coming and he said, hey, I need to bring this guy over and let's see if we can have a breaking of the bread and a small communion cup of wine with him, right? So they brought him in, and he's 6 foot to 6'1". He's 160 pounds. He needs some milk for real. That joker, he needs something to eat. But he plays bigger than his size. Where my milk at? Where my milk at? I don't got it no more. I thought I had it. Here you go.
He needs some milk.
He needs some milk for real, y'all. He's a smaller guy, but no one attacked the ball while it's in the air better than he. And he had 6 pick sixes, right? There's some guys that people are looking at to bring in to be a running back that don't have that many touchdowns. Some people are looking to bring in as a wide receiver, don't have that many touchdowns. He got 6 pick sixes. You know what I'm saying? Try to say that fast 5 times, right? So they bringing him in. I look at him as a boundary corner. His knock is the fact that he's over aggressive. Ain't that something? He's overly aggressive. Oh my gosh, you know, I like that. But he's subject to the double move. But he's a willing tackler. And if you throw that ball wrong and it's in the area, he will pick it off and take it the other way for the tub. So both of those boys, man, bring a lot to the table. I like that. The Cowboys are entertaining that aspect of it. Hey, when I have more time, we'll go over some more things, but I got to roll up out of here. Cowboy Nation, I thank y'all so much. Wanted to jump live to give you guys that. Look, leave no stone unturned. Here's the thing. We may have our thoughts and reservations on the Cowboys' free agent moves, off-season moves, but dog, we don't have it as it relates to the draft. No, we believe in that draft, right? It's a council to meeting. I can't. I gotta go. I gotta roll. Luckily, it's only about 10 to 15 minutes away from my home. But I may go back live later, but be sure to tune in a little later on today. Me and Ashley will be live too, going over some important Cowboys content and stuff that's going around. The Dallas Cowboys, in this particular fashion, we are still doing things different. And what we've been asking for the Cowboys to do a little bit more on the front end before the draft, right? Because we greedy, and I know I'm greedy. But the Cowboys will draft well this year too. Hear me out. And as greedy as we are, even after you drafted well, we will go through the undrafted rookies, guys, and we will see whether or not those boys can make anything shake. And they will. Lord, do you have any truth to that? Look at it. We talking about Terrence Steele. He was an undrafted guy, by the way. Right? We talked about even Peyton Hendershot, undrafted guy, by the way. So Chris Hall, as well as Will Willie, they doing a lot of things, right, for the nation. But what we want, the greedy us, we greedy. What we want is for the Cowboys to dance a little bit more even in free agency after the draft. So let's continue to do those things, Cowboy Nation. Write this down. If you want a thing bad enough to go out there and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to give up your time, your peace, and your sleep, if all of your desires of it makes you quite mad, that you don't get tired of it, and it makes you all hold everything tawdry and cheap. If life itself seems empty and useless without it, and all that you scheme and dream is about it, if you'll gladly go out there and sweat for it, fret for it, or plan for it, and lose all terror of your mind, if you would simply go after the thing you want with all of your capacity, strength, and scorgasity, with faith, hope, and confidence, and stern pertinacity. If neither cold poverty or famish or fame, or sickness of your body or brain can turn you away from the thing you want, if dogged and grim and besieged and beset, with the help of Almighty, yes, you will get it. Cowboy Nation, yes, 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 yes. And Cavante Turpin, All-Pro Cavante Turpin, Pro Bowler, right, was an undrafted guy. And there's no comfortable bed for him, especially if the Cowboys draft Tank Dell. Woo-woo! Baby, baby. It's about to get, it's Mr. Nasty time as it relates to competition.
Damn! Give me my thing, you.
Let's go.
Damn! Damn!
Let's go. We about.
I just wanna run it up. Can we check or something?
Come on.
In the field, let up. Yeah. I've been really in the field, let her rush, I let her feel. Lately, I just wanna run it up.
Be sure to subscribe. Sharing is caring. Shout out to you, Chris, Brandy, and Echo.
Yeah. Kinda check a song. Lately, I just wanna run it up. Count that too, count it up. Yeah. Count it up, count it up, count it up. Lately, I just wanna run it up. Need them ones, I need them fives, need them tens.
Hell State.